3 weeks until the season opener between the Eagles and the Cowboys. It's going to be here before we know it, folks. 3 weeks. It's really not that long. Kind of surprising. All right, so glad you're with us today. Marcus Spears, Andrew Hawkins, Dan Graziano with you for the hour. There's a lot to get to, y'all. I was about to say, are we doing something different than the wave, but then you did the wave, so it's okay.
No. I've been throwing deuces.
You were
my
just
bad,
doing
but
deuces
you know,
and
I'm all over the place. My bad.
Hey, listen, you do whatever you want. We'll tell you why later. That's a big tease for the end of the show. All right, some news to start us off, though. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is scheduled to have his disciplinary hearing with the NFL on September 30th in New York City. Sources told our Adam Schefter. Rice is now likely to be able to play the first 4 weeks of the season before any potential discipline is imposed for his role in a multi-car crash that left multiple people injured during the 2024 offseason. Now, if you take a look at the Chiefs' early schedule, right, with this news in mind, in the first 10 weeks, they faced 6 playoff teams from last season and 3 teams that failed to reach 5 wins. They opened the season in Brazil against the Chargers and then play 5 of their next 8 games in Kansas City. ESPN Analytics has the Chiefs winning 8 of those first 9 games, with their 1 loss coming in Buffalo. Graz, what more can you tell us about the timing of this hearing for Rashee Rice?
So, Laura, what usually happens in cases like this is the player with the union and the league will sort of negotiate. The league will say, here's what we have in mind for discipline, and then there'll be a conversation and they might settle on something. In this case, those conversations took place, but they didn't reach an agreement. So what Rashee Rice effectively is saying is, I'd rather go to a hearing. The hearing officer is Sue L. Robinson. She's the independent arbitrator that was agreed to in the last CBA. She's heard one other case since she assumed this role, and it was the Deshaun Watson case in 2022. So my understanding is the hearing scheduled for September 30th because that's when it fit into her schedule. Now, if you look ahead and if you look back, in fact, to 2022, the hearing was at the end of June. Her ruling was issued on August 1st. She imposed a 6-game suspension on Deshaun Watson that the league then appealed because they wanted a longer one. And then about 2 weeks later, the league and union settled on an 11-game suspension. So this is the kind of thing now that could hang over the back half of the Chiefs season with uncertainty in terms of when the suspension could start and how long it could be.
It's fascinating context and really instructive in what we might see here. Hawk, as it relates to what Rashee Rice brings to this team, it seems like the Chiefs will have Rice for at least the first 4 games of the season. What does his skill set add to this offense?
It adds a Kelsey Mahomes variant of chemistry to the receiving core, because what makes Rashee Rice special, and has been a special since he's been a rookie, is that he sees and feels the defense the same way that Patrick Mahomes does. So when they've had issues, especially early in his career, he's helped fill some of that void that is left by Kelsey, who is 35 years old, still one of the top tight ends in the league, but he might be a little slower getting to those windows. So having Rashee Rice in the lineup with Kelsey, with some of that speed of Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, really makes it feel like a complete package as it pertains to the passing game.
Yeah, Hawk, you mentioned his ability to read like Patrick Mahomes, but his run after catch as well was something that was starting to come to a head. They were able to get him the ball in quick game, and he can go make plays. The fortunate part in this unfortunate situation is that they got a lot of experience for Xavier Worthy last year. And he became a guy more in depth to the route tree, Hawk. You would know more than me, as opposed to just being a straight line guy. And then the creativity of Andy Reid as well to get guys in favorable situations. But make no mistake about it, this is going to be a tough year for the Kansas City Chiefs, not because they won't be good, because other teams have been spending time and money and office visits to try to figure out how to get over the hump. The Bills in particular, the Ravens in particular. So they need to have that type of rapport going. But to Graz's point as well, it's still so much unknown. So I think the Chiefs have to operate like they won't have Rashee Rice. They have to operate like he won't be available at any point during the season, just in case it comes at a time where you're playing those critical games and he's not available for you.
And you showed, Laura, those first 10 games of the season. In no part of that did you see the Denver Broncos. Those games are in the back half of the season. That they were only 2 division games in that first 10. So if they're missing him for the second half of the season, that could be potentially significant. I think, if you're the Chiefs, you probably would have rather had the suspension at the start of the season, know when it was going to end and be able to move on from there.
Yeah, obviously they can't control that. It's to the mercy of the judge's schedule.
Right.
But yeah, the back half of the season looks foreboding. All right, to more big news. Micah Parsons still doesn't have a new deal as the Cowboys and their star player continue to get further away from common ground. Seemingly, the drama continues with America's team. And here's Jerry Jones yesterday on what is preventing him and Micah from talking.
Nothing.
So why don't you talk?
Again, nothing would be that, and we might or might not talk. And the rest of that gets in what we do every day.
You think that talks would pick up a little bit with him?
I don't know that necessarily talks will, but we've got a game coming, and he's under contract.
A little smile at the end. Marcus, with how publicly this is being handled, how do you think these seemingly daily comments from Jerry are impacting the locker room? It's nothing they hadn't seen before, but still.
Yeah, but Boogie, this is different. And I think bitterness is starting to set in between Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones, right? Both of them have their perspective of why the other one is being treated unfairly. And then ultimately I saw y'all play the clip and the reaction to what he said on the blue carpet about having to create this kind of drama and this scenario. So there's a lot of things that are affecting this locker room because it's not about football. This whole entire training camp has been about Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons. Every question I'm sure that these guys are getting. Let me ask y'all this. I'm going to be honest with y'all. Put everybody up on the camera for me, please. Everybody up on the camera.
Hey.
When's the last time y'all had a conversation about the Dallas Cowboys and their performance in training camp and what the players are doing? Have we had that discussion at all?
And Marcus, I mean,
has anybody talked about it?
I've been on this show a lot this offseason, as have all of us, right? And we haven't talked about that because we can't, because we're too busy talking about this. But maybe we should be talking about the fact that they got George Pickens there across from CeeDee Lamb. You've got a healthy Dak Prescott. I don't know. You're right. Like, everything is about this.
But Boogie, that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. These players in this locker room are probably inundated with Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons. And I'm telling you, Hawk knows this as well as anybody. First of all, you're in training camp, so you're already in purgatory. All right? You're trying to get ready and get prepared for a season. You got a new coaching staff. You got new coaches trying to figure out who the talent is and how we're going to use them. Micah is unavailable, but the questions and the scenario and the narrative has nothing to do with football when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, which in line is the issue. And Boogie, you have said on TV with me a number of years, and I've had to argue with people that this actually affects the way that football is played for this football team, and nobody wants to seem to believe it until now when we hear Jerry say, I want to create some controversy because it keeps the Cowboys in the press.
You're spot on, Marcus. And I think, to your point, like, the reason why these Cowboys teams fail to reach their potential is because of these unnecessary distractions. We are pounded into our head in football to eliminate unnecessary distractions. So with these comments from Jerry Jones and this whole saga with one of the best players in the game, at best it's pointless. At worst, it's actually detrimental, to your point. He comes from a very old school way of deal making, which is either I win or you win, and there's never a good middle ground. But the fact of the matter is, we go through this time after time with these players who have put the statistics up to earn the contract that they're talking about. He's going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the game, period. Figure out the details to the deal, because there is no version of this where you walk away a winner. Actually, you run the risk of still signing a deal that you're going to have to pay for anyway, but now you have a player, to your point, Marcus, who is bitter, and now you're questioning, are you truly going to reach that full potential? Because now he feels a way about the organization that he's strapped it up for so long.
Yeah, on some level, it obviously reminds you of what he's gone through with Dak Prescott, with CeeDee Lamb, et cetera. But to Marcus's point, this one does feel different. And Jerry Jones is kind of talking differently about this situation than he did about those last year. He really believes, my understanding is Jerry really believes he had a deal done with Micah, a deal agreed to in the spring, and that Micah effectively backed out when he said, I'm going to run this all by my agent. So at this point, the Cowboys' stance, from what I've been told, is if Micah wants that deal we talked about in the spring, cool, great. We're happy to do it. If not, he has a contract. We can franchise him next year and the year after. We expect him to show up and play. That, to me, it does not paint the picture of a relationship that's in a good place.
Woof, it just feels like it's just going to keep getting messier and messier. The other thing, too, guys, as you guys know, Jerry has not won when he's gotten into these back and forths with these other guys. He's always ended up having to pay them more than he wanted to. And in this case, it's going to be that and then maybe some more. All right, let's get to some more top stories with some deals that still aren't done. Graz, what's the latest on Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, still no movement here. There's a big difference between what the team wants to pay him and what he wants to be paid. So he's out of practice. You see him here. He shows up at the end of practice, signs autographs. The fans chant his name. His agent is there. You see him talking to his agent there after practice. So it's been a fun show, but he hasn't been on the practice field, and we don't know when he will be. At this point, it's possible he plays out the last year of his deal for about $20 million. Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals scheduled to make about $16 million this year. No movement on this. When he got to camp, it seemed like there was a chance that they could work something out. They haven't. It's the same situation as it is with McLaurin, a 30-year-old player. The team is hesitant to guarantee too much future money to, and round it goes. Still another 3 weeks to figure this out. And here's one that's kind of gone under the radar. Cam Hayward with the Steelers. You know, he signed for 2 more years, but no guarantees. And he did an extension last year that he really feels was kind of a under market, prove it deal, and wants to be paid more this year. He's set to make about $12-13 million this year. That's about half of what the top defensive tackles are getting, and he feels like he deserves more, and has said the other day that he's willing to sit out games over it. So this is one to watch as we get closer to the season as well.
Yeah, sneaky big, right? I mean, they need him, and his numbers have proven that he's definitely worth that money he's asking for. All right, new on NFL Live from our Sarah Barshop. This just coming by. Quarterback Matthew Stafford is dealing with that back injury. He will work out on Saturday, Sean McVay said. The workout will be similar to what he did on August 9th, and, quote, hopefully he responds a little bit better. His back responds a little bit better to that. Of course, that was what happened, and then he was not able to play or be out there recently. We'll keep an eye on Stafford. We're just getting started on NFL Live. Caleb Williams back. Well, all eyes were on the Kelsey Brothers New Heights podcast. Over 1.2 million people tuned in live to watch Taylor Swift's appearance on the show. She joked when she first started dating Travis, she had a lot to learn about football.
I thought it was like Jared Goff is here and Josh Allen's here. And they're going to be like, they blow a whistle and then they go at each other and they're like, and it's like, who's going to win?
That's actually,
I would love to see Jared Goff play some defense. Let's see Jared Goff on defense.
I've got some ideas. I've got some thoughts.
Marcus, do you think Allen or Goff could have played defense in another life? Josh Allen, I feel like for sure.
Josh Allen could. Josh Allen could. Josh Allen is a freak athlete, man. He would figure it out. Unfortunately, he has a cannon attached to his shoulders, so he had to become a quarterback. But Josh Allen is a supremely talented athlete who I think could have played defense.
By the way,
Goff didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, no, he didn't. Sorry,
no
Jared.
chance. Milk check all day. Give me that.
Golf.
Oh,
Golf.
Man. I got to
Golf.
say.
Golf.
Yeah,
Golf.
right? Good one. Good one, Swagoo. That podcast was a lot of fun, by the way. Shout out to the Kelsey brothers and to Taylor Swift for doing that, bringing in a whole lot more football fans than we would have seen otherwise. Let's go on trend around the league with some numbers from last season and see if our analysts think this trend continues. So here's where we start. Let's talk about those guys, right? Josh Allen became the first player in NFL history to have at least 25 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns, and fewer than 10 interceptions in a single season. Interceptions had previously been an issue for Allen, right? He threw 18 in 2023, which was second most in the NFL. Hawk, does Josh Allen continue to limit turnovers next season?
I think he does. I think what we saw from Josh Allen is like the first year of a new era in his career. Like the thing that made him special a year ago was his ability to limit turnovers, right? Not force the ball. We know he has a rocket arm. We know he's good for 40 touchdowns, whether rushing or passing. But what he did last year was protect the football and not take unnecessary risks. Without Stephon Diggs, it forced him into that role. And I think from here on out, we're going to see that version of Josh Allen.
All right, and how about Jared Goff, not golf, whose accuracy was on point last season? He had 9 games where he had a completion percentage of at least 75%. That was 3 more than any other quarterback. Marcus, does Goff continue this efficiency without Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator?
I believe he does, but I say it with a little bit of trepidation, Boogie, because look, we know that offensively these guys were a tier above everybody when it came to scheme, when it came to getting Goff in his situations, the play action pass, which he thrives at. Ben Johnson made sure to keep him in those situations. The run game was a big part of what they did. But I think Dan Campbell being there and he set the tone and understands what Jared Goff does at a very high level, I don't think it changes much. So I think the trend will continue of him playing at this level. But Ben Johnson is gone, and I'm not going to act like that's nothing.
Yeah, I like it. I agree. All right, let's go to the news of Wednesday, you guys. Shedeur Sanders injured his oblique warming up yesterday. The Browns said he's day-to-day, now unlikely to play Saturday in the preseason game against the Eagles. Here's more from Kevin Stefanski on Shedeur today.
Yeah, felt it early, I think warming up, and then felt it throughout individuals, so took a look at it. If it's a right guard, you can play through that. When it's a quarterback, you kind of need that muscle to throw. So unfortunately, going to put him down for a little bit here. We'll treat it day to day and see how he responds, but want to be smart because he's a thrower, so you can't push that thing.
So could it be a situation where Tyler might play the whole game if it comes to that?
Everything's on the table. We'll see.
Yeah, that was Tyler Huntley, by the way, if you're keeping track of all the Browns quarterbacks. Marcus, how do you think this injury for Shedeur, we love Snoop, how does this injury for Shedeur, though, factor into how the Browns are trying to manage their quarterback room?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate, obviously, for Shedeur, because after that preseason game, I was of the mindset that he deserved more reps to compete for the 2 spot. I think him, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel are bunched. If Kenny Pickett has any leeway, it'll just be because he spent more time in the NFL. But Shedeur put on a phenomenal display of what the potential of him being in this offense could be against Carolina, and then you get an injury. Now, here's the caveat, though. The injury shouldn't cost him his opportunity when he gets back, because it didn't cost the other 2 guys. He didn't move up to the second quarterback on that depth chart after that performance, after 2 other guys were injured. So when he gets back, I think everybody is still in this conversation for who will be Joe Flacco's backup, and he'll need to continue to put his best foot forward as he moves forward and gets healthy. But getting healthy is the most important thing right now.
Yeah, it's a valuable point. Marcus mentioned the injuries to this QB room. Graz, what can you tell us more about the health of the quarterbacks for Cleveland?
There's not much. Joe Flacco, the 40-year-old, is the healthiest dude there. Dylan Gabriel has been working his way back from his injury this week and has been able to participate in 11-on-11 team drills. Kenny Pickett has not. He's still working his way back from his injury. And now, of course, Shedeur Sanders is hurt, and Tyler Huntley is there as well. So it seems like Flacco is probably the week 1 starter by default at this point, based on his experience and his health. But I think what Kevin Stefanski said there at the end is like the official motto of Browns quarterbacks. He said everything is on the table and we'll see. I think that's just how they're approaching it.
I think for Joe Flacco, I like to think of, most people not going into a situation having taken crazy pills. And I know the Browns did not sign Joe Flacco thinking we're going to get the best version of this 40-plus-year-old quarterback, and this is going to be the future of this franchise. How is Joe Flacco going to do? Take his 18 or so years in the league, average them out, and that's probably what the expectation is for Joe Flacco. Now, when you look at Kenny Pickett, when you look at Shedeur Sanders, when you look at Dylan Gabriel, you're hoping that those are guys that can reach their ceiling, and you're going to figure out who has the fastest track to do so. And I know Joe Flacco didn't come into this season thinking I'm going to be the best version that I've ever been in the National Football League. Otherwise, his agent would have negotiated a different contract. And Marcus, if you're listening, Junior would never have to worry about that with me as his representation. I'm just going to put that out there. Next, what I'm going to tell you is for Shedeur Sanders, for Dylan Gabriel, for Kenny Pickett, for the rest of this preseason, they need to get those reps. They need to continue to show what they have in the tank so that the Browns have a good sense of saying if Joe Flacco is the week 1 starter, cool, but what is that ceiling or that that cliff look like before one of these other guys surpass him to become their guy?
By the way, if you missed it, Swagu's son, we'll show you a little bit more about this later on in the show, but he is the #1 prospect in basketball. Junior is incredible. And we are all now vying to be his agent. So Swag, Hawk's got his name in there. I thought I had pole position,
quit today, Swag.
but I can't compete
I
with
texted him this morning. I texted him this morning and told him, hey, man, you got to let me hold something, bro. I've been taking care of you. You got to let me hold something now.
Oh, more on that to come as we continue on NFL Live. By the way, Drake May made waves as a rookie, and now he's back to turn that potential into wins, they hope. Could the Patriots be the NFL's biggest surprise? Someone here thinks so, and they'll explain why next. Hello, we're back on NFL Live. Caleb Williams and the other Bears starters are going to play in the Sunday preseason game. Our first chance to see him in this Ben Johnson offense. Obviously, they're not going to show too much because it's preseason, but still, we should get a little idea of what it's going to look like. So, Hawk, what are you hoping to see from Williams in our first look at him with Johnson calling plays?
I want to see him play within structure. I mean, that's the big thing about Caleb Williams. We know he has talent. We know he can throw the ball a quarter mile. We know he's agile enough. We know we've seen him make all the off-script plays through college. But when you're at the professional ranks, when you're in the NFL, you have to play with purpose. And that's what you want to see from Caleb Williams in this preseason game. Not to the full extent, but at least make advances from what we saw a year ago. When you are in the NFL, every movement, every step, every which way you look is for a reason. And when you can see him play, you see he's still relying too much on his natural ability. The hope is that with the new coach, new offensive system, now he starts to put some of those things in place.
Yeah, Hawk, I think it's relative to what we talked about with Josh Allen. And before the dummies think I'm comparing Caleb Williams and Josh Allen, I'm not.
Don't be a dummy.
Okay, but Joe Brady had a clear, concise plan of how he wanted to usher in this new version of Josh Allen and put him in favorable situations instead of playing, to your point, Hawk, like Superman all the time, even though he did it at a very much higher level than most people could do. This is Ben Johnson's task for Caleb Williams, is to confine him but not limit his ability and find ways in order to make this dude as dangerous playing in structure as he would be making those off-script, off-schedule plays. And when you think about young quarterbacks, I remember Dan talked about this a few years ago with Mahomes. For as good as Mahomes was playing and going to Super Bowls and winning them, he was like, there's room for Pat to be a more of a pocket guy and stay a little bit more steady and deliver the football from those normal spots. And then Pat acknowledged that. So again, I think coaches do well in the way with guys like this, especially in order to wrangle them in, but not take away what they do at a very high level. And hopefully Caleb can grasp what Ben Johnson is trying to get him to do and then become that more efficient passer and quarterback like you mentioned, Hawk.
Yeah, it's worth just remembering that we should all pump the brakes a little bit on how good this may look right away, because it may be a little bumpy. I mean, this Ben Johnson offense is complicated, right, Graz? What have you heard about the dynamic between Johnson and Williams so far in camp?
Sounds like from everything we've been told, Ben Johnson is coaching Caleb Williams hard, coaching the entire team hard. You know, very demanding and precise in practice. If you make a mistake, we're going to do it again, you know, until you get it right. I think they want to see how much he can take and then sort of dial back as the season comes closer and say, we'll build the offense around what he does well, what he feels comfortable in. So, all that said, it could look bad this weekend, right? If he's at a point where they're pushing him beyond where he's comfortable, like this is an extension of the practice he's getting that is not televised. And so putting him out there, you know, it does run the risk of people saying, oh, is this not the guy? So what Ben Johnson said yesterday was the reason the starters are playing this week is because they have a certain rep count they want them to get to every week. And this week's schedule requires the game to be part of that. Last week's didn't. So if you take him at his word, that's just sort of an extension of practice, and we'll see how it all goes. But yes, they are, I think, very deliberate in the way they're bringing Caleb Williams along. They don't want to rush it. They want to make sure it's done right, and I think they see it as a project that is in progress.
Yeah, the Bears, by the way, have the 5th hardest schedule in the NFL, according to ESPN Analytics, so that's not super helpful either. But keep an eye.
Welcome to head coaching, Ben Johnson.
Right. Have fun. Maybe it'll be great. Drake May struggled when targeting wide receivers last season. Let's talk a little bit more about him as we look for another jump from another quarterback. He ranked last in pass yards per game when throwing to them and averaged the 4th fewest yards per attempt. He also ranked toward the bottom of the league in QBR and touchdown interception ratio. The Patriots got wide receiver help this offseason by adding Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins, as well as drafting Kyle Williams. Diggs is working his way back from injury, and head coach Mike Vrabel had a Belichick-like back and forth with a reporter about him moments ago. Take a listen.
Oh, he's not sure about his readiness for week 1.
Did you really believe that, Phil? I mean, you're a smart guy. I don't know where you went to school. It wasn't Ohio State, but, like, do you really believe that? Do you really believe that, Phil, or are you just trying to bait me into something?
I'm not baiting you into anything. He did say he wasn't sure he'd be ready for week 1. Is there any doubt in your mind?
I don't know the context in which he said it, but you'd have to help me. I mean, he's been out here almost every day. I'm excited of where he's at, and we'll see when week 1 comes. But he's going to practice today. Hopefully he helps us in the red zone. But we can't predict the future about week 1. I just know he's going to be out there today. And he works hard and, he cares, which are 2 important things.
Ooh, even there's a little Ohio State dig in there, too. I like that. Okay, spicy Braves. Graz, what have you heard about where Diggs is in his recovery from this torn ACL?
Everything I've heard, Laura, has been positive throughout camp. He's been there. He's been practicing with the team. I think the expectation is that he's going to be okay. So to Mike Vrabel's point, I guess we'd have to hear the context in which he said it, see what the look on his face was when he said it. But it sounds like maybe he's trying to tamp down expectations, or maybe he's having a little fun with it. But I haven't heard anything out of New England throughout training camp that indicates concern over Stephon Diggs' readiness. And based on Mike Vrabel's reaction to the questioning there, it seems like, he really hasn't either.
I agree. Interesting. Okay, Hawk, if Diggs is healthy, what could that potentially do for a young quarterback like May?
Yeah, it takes a lot of the pressure off of him. Not completely, because he's still the quarterback and he has to make decisions and throws and run an offense, but it's very similar to what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. Early in Josh Allen's career, we saw the talent. It was kind of unseasoned. It was, not fully developed or shaped. And when Diggs got there, it took pressure off him to say, okay, worst come to worst, 50-50 chance of just one-on-one against that guy. Now, the question is, where is Stephon Diggs in his career? The clips that I've seen, him doing one-on-ones, him in camp, look to be the same Stephon Diggs. And for a Drake May, it does relieve some of that stress and pressure when he's running the offense to say, if it's one-on-one, I trust Diggs against this guy. And in that version of it, it allows him to say, pull this in case of emergency, relieve some of that pressure.
Boogie, if I told you the one thing that teams need to do to help their quarterback, what would I say?
Run the ball. Or you might say run the
period.
Dang ball.
Damn ball.
Thank you.
Listen, this is first of all, this is Mike Vrabel, okay, who spent a lot of time having a lot of success with Derrick Henry in the backfield. This is the same guy. This is the same team that drafted who I think is going to be a phenomenal running back in splitting time in the backfield, the back from Ohio State, who he mentioned. And you have to think with a second-year quarterback, Josh McDaniels, reestablishing the quote-unquote Patriot way, maybe not how they go about business, but how they play football, that Drake May's best friend is going to be able to turn around and hand the football off. And I know it's boring because people always say swag is boring when you want to just run. No, it's not about that. It's about a comfort level. And when you look at this team and you think about their defensive-minded head coach who came from an era where they don't get enough credit for how good they were when they were winning Super Bowls with the New England Patriots, I think it's going to have a great understanding with Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, to make sure that that's a big part of Drake May's progression. And then when those opportunities present itself for him to push it down the field, one of the things people talked about when he was coming out of North Carolina, his athletic ability, maybe some quarterback run, maybe some RPO, maybe some zone read. That is how you progress this young quarterback. But I think with Vrabel's mentality, along with Josh McDaniel and what they want to establish at the line of scrimmage, they're going to run the damn football and help Drake May get better.
I think you're exactly right, Marcus. I think it all fits together, right? Because when a defense says, hey, we're going to take away this run, do you have somebody on the outside that they're going to match up one-on-one and still win? And that's where Stephon Diggs comes into that equation. You got to have it all. It's like an agent that knows business and has also been an athlete himself, right? Like those are important things that you need to work together. And something that I think you got to make sure you're always thinking about, Swagger.
Saw what you did there.
It just all comes together.
Hog, put that beard in, man. I got you, dog. I got you.
Laying it on thick.
Also,
go ahead, Graz.
One quick point. Travion Henderson is not boring. If they run it with him, they don't have to worry about being boring. Just saying.
I love that. No,
not boring.
That's very good.
And he returning kicks.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
I'm glad you brought up, too, the athleticism of Drake May, Swag, because I think people forget about that. This guy has so much to his game that probably hasn't even been unlocked yet. We saw some of it last season. I bet we see a lot more this year. All right, coming up, Cam Ward believes the Titans offense can become a top 10 unit in the NFL. Just how realistic is that? Hawk says this team's fate rides on the rookie's shoulders. He'll explain.